ツナマンダツナマンダツナマンダツナマンダツJodo Shinshu Buddhists政府上昇学我無量国類大摂取無最小貧具生部上昇学我史上仏道如所長寺法空教未所門生部上昇学利欲人少年上映主本業死ぬ無浄土一生天人死人力現代公不生無才道少女三苦名交際主役難回避遅延延滅死根門は閉塞小悪道通覧前注文高僧上満足異様老寺法日願主樹期天候不言一種解放像公正功徳法上大主従説法施施空供養一切仏具足主特法願念心上満徳一三愛用女文無下知通覧未不詳願学営力投資最小尊志願や国家大仙の感動国書天人と一名形ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ 願にしく読平等聖祭道本菩提心お上Namanda, Namanda, 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 Namanda. Please join me in Gasho. Reverently contemplating Amida's directing of virtue for our going forth to the Pure Land, I find that there is great practice. There is great shinjin. The great practice is to say the name of the Tathagata, of unhindered light. This practice, embodying all good acts and possessing all roots of virtue, is perfect and most rapid in bringing about birth. It is the treasure ocean of virtues that is suchness or true reality. For this reason, it is called great practice. This practice arises from the vow of great compassion, which is known as the vow that all Buddhas extol the name, the vow that all Buddhas say the name, and the vow that all Buddhas praise the name. It might also be called the vow of directing virtue for our going forth, and the vow in which the saying of the name is selected. Nam mandats, nam mandats, nam mandats, nam mandats, nam mandats. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you all for tuning in to our YouTube channel and for joining us on our last Sunday service in October. Another month has gone by in a flash. A couple of days ago, I was able to attend a very enlightening Dharma discussion and gathering with Reverend Zenju Earthland Manuel and my friend Chen Sing Han. The event started with a reading from their respective books, and afterwards they had a small dialogue with each other about the passages that they read. One of the main themes I latched onto during this enlightening discussion is the idea of identity in Buddhism. One of the most common viewpoints that Chen Sing Han is trying to expose and debunk is that there are two types of Buddhisms in America. One is the Asian ethnic kind, and the other is white convert Buddhist groups. And while I acknowledge that simply putting an ethnic or racial box as a category for Buddhists within this country is way too simplistic and actually damaging, I also wanted to bring up some of the stereotypes that have also been slapped onto these two groups as well. For the Asian ethnic or cultural Buddhists, they are described as being more superstitious, ancestor worshiping, more cultural than religious, worshiping kind of Buddhists. Often Asian Buddhists are sort of relegated to this not real Buddhism category. I put that in quotation marks, not real Buddhism category. Obviously, this is a false notion. For the other false dichotomy, the white convert Buddhists, many of them are associated with Zen sitters and insight meditation groups. Often they are stereotyped as being rational, logical, and engaged Buddhists, or engaging more with the texts and the teachings, etc. Obviously, and this is also according to Chen Sing Han, this description about the two different groups doesn't give either side any benefit of the doubt and traps us in the eyes of scholars or even to each other about who we are and what defines us as Buddhists. One of the reasons why this is false is because many of our congregations are becoming more diverse in all aspects of how we identify. And I once again want to bring us back I want to bring our attention back to our teachings of Jodo Shinshu, that Amida Buddha, the realm of the Dharma, embraces all of us regardless of who we are. However, on the other topic that came up during this discussion was how Buddhists are supposed to act, or the outsider's expectation of how we are supposed to conduct ourselves. One of the topics that Zenju Sensei read about in her book was her strong feelings and even anger. She beautifully read this description of what this anger and what these strong feelings and emotions looked like, described them beautifully. I am of the opinion that we as Buddhists have been categorized too strongly with this image of meditating, peaceful monks who sit on large rocks, being able to let life just flow by without worry or even care. As I have stated in previous Dharma talks, we as humans, even as Buddhists, will from time to time experience feelings of anger, sadness, rage, and even ignorance. And while I'm all for teaching about the three poisons, greed, anger, and ignorance, I sometimes wonder if we approach the subject with too much simplicity. Basically, don't do those things and you will be good. I think now I want to address or approach the subject with Dharma school students, especially the Dharma school students in high school and college, that these concepts of greed, anger, and ignorance are part of ourselves that we are unable to get rid of in this lifetime. This is not to say that I think that all of us should just go off the rail and begin indulging in these aspects. However, to try and force them out of ourselves is also unrealistic and unhealthy. We need to acknowledge these aspects about ourselves and even give a healthy space for those aspects to sit. In a sense, this is a large part of our life journey as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. We must first acknowledge all of the aspects about ourselves that keep us from experiencing the supreme awakening. Then, when we can accept that about ourselves, we turn to Amida Buddha for guidance. There are many great Dharma teachers, there are many great Dharma masters in the world now who have taken on the difficult and hard practices to become awakened. I am not one of those teachers. I, just like all of you, must rely solely on the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. If anything, for me, that is what defines me as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. It is not that I am ethnically Japanese. It is not the fact that I am a priest. It is simply the fact that I alone cannot hope to achieve the supreme awakening on my own with my own merits, and because of this, I recite the Nembutsu. I rely on Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. That is what Namo Amida Butsu translates to. All other aspects about myself as a Buddhist are secondary. I am immensely proud, and maybe too proud, that I am the resident priest of the Tacoma Buddhist Temple. I am immensely proud, maybe too much so, of my completion of the Gonshiki program in Kyoto. I am given Honganji's blessing to wear this robe and to give Dharma talks to you all. However, all of that is secondary to what defines me as a Buddhist. The moment we begin to start thinking to ourselves, oh, I'm a Buddhist, and therefore I should not get mad about this situation, is when we really need to rethink to ourselves about what it means to be a Buddhist. While we certainly must think very carefully and even sometimes scrutinize the actions we do or the things that we say, we should also not force ourselves into these boxes of what the mass public or non-Buddhists for that matter may think about us and how we should behave or what we should believe in. And once again, I caution all of us not to take this message as a golden ticket to start acting in destructive ways, but at the same time, if a person who might be an acquaintance to you says something like, I thought you were a Buddhist, don't you do X, Y, and Z, or don't you do A, B, and C? Then ask yourself how you are going to respond to that person. How are you going to handle that situation, right? And what does that even mean to be a Buddhist? And so when this happens, maybe you might want to ask this person a question in response, right? Well, what do you mean as a Buddhist, right? It's like, how do you define a Buddhist? How do I define a Buddhist? All of these are things that we need to think about. So with that last message, I would once again like to thank you all for tuning in to this week's Sunday service. I hope you all have a safe and healthy week. Halloween is coming up on Saturday. Unfortunately, I don't think this year we are able to do trick-or-treating, but hopefully you all can get some candy in a safe and healthy manner. Be sure to start wearing more layers as it's getting colder these days. And as always, wear masks when you go out and practice social distancing, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, and then most importantly, say the Nembutsu. Thank you all very much. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nammanda, Snammanda, To conclude this service, I would like to read Renyo Shonin's Gobunsho, Matsudai Muchi no Sho. Mandai muchi no zaike jeju no nanyo taran tomogara wa kokoro hitotsu ni shite Amida Butto fukaku tanomi mairasete sarani yo no kata e kokoro o furazu一心一個にぶ助けたまえともさん主情ばたとえ在後は人獣なりとも必ず皆如来は救いましますべしこれすなわち第18の念仏往生の誓願の心なり核のごとく献上しての上には寝ても覚めても命のあらん限りは称名念仏すべきものなりあなかしこあなかしこ